Hi, I'm Dr. Alex Rowan, and if you're waking up 2, 3, maybe even 4 times a night just to use the bathroom, I want you to know something important right from the start. You are not alone. And in many cases, you are not broken. This is one of the most common sleep complaints I hear, and it affects tens of millions of adults, particularly those over the age of 60. It has a medical name, nocturia. And while it absolutely can be a sign of something that needs medical attention, a significant number of people experience it for reasons that are far more manageable than they realize. Today, I want to walk you through 3 evidence-based habits that research suggests can meaningfully reduce how often you're getting up at night. These aren't miracle fixes. They're not going to replace a proper medical evaluation if you need one. But they are grounded in real science, and for many people, they make a genuinely significant difference. So, let's start with something your kidneys are doing right now, something most people have never thought about. Your kidneys are not just passive filters sitting quietly in your back. They're dynamic, rhythmically active organs that actually change their behavior depending on the time of day. During daylight hours, your kidneys are in what I'd call full production mode. They're filtering blood rapidly, producing urine at a relatively high rate, keeping your fluid balance in check while you go about your day. But as evening arrives and your body begins preparing for sleep, something shifts. A hormone called vasopressin, you might also hear it called antidiuretic hormone, or ADH, begins rising in your bloodstream. Its job is essentially to tell your kidneys, slow down. Concentrate the urine you're making. Give the bladder a rest overnight. This is elegant, purposeful biology. Your body has a built-in mechanism for letting you sleep through the night without constant bathroom interruptions. The challenge is that this system can be overridden, and most of us are overriding it without realizing it. If you're drinking a substantial volume of fluid in the 2 to 3 hours before bed, you are sending your kidneys more work than vasopressin can compensate for. Your bladder fills up faster than your brain's sleep centers can suppress the urge to void. And so you wake up. Research supports the value of implementing what's often called a fluid cutoff, stopping significant fluid intake 2 to 3 hours before your target bedtime. A study published in the Journal of Urology found that structured evening fluid restriction was associated with a meaningful reduction in nighttime voiding episodes in adults with documented nocturia. The effect was particularly notable in older participants, which makes biological sense given what we know about how vasopressin changes with age. And speaking of age, this is worth understanding clearly. After around 60, vasopressin secretion at night begins to decline. Research published in the European Journal of Endocrinology and related literature has documented that older adults produce measurably less vasopressin than younger adults during nighttime hours. What this means practically is that even a modest amount of evening fluid, 2 or 3 glasses, can push an older bladder past its threshold in a way that the same amount simply wouldn't have done when you were younger. This is not a disease. It's biology. And it's biology you can actually work with. Here's what the evidence suggests you do. Identify your target bedtime. Count backward 2.5 hours. That's your last meaningful fluid intake moment for the evening. Your final drink should be small, around 6 ounces or so, and ideally not caffeinated or alcoholic because both caffeine and alcohol interfere directly with vasopressin function, increasing your overnight urine output regardless of how much you drink. One thing I'd add here, and this is important, if you're someone who takes medications in the evening with water, or if you have a health condition that requires careful fluid management like kidney disease or heart failure, please don't just change your fluid habits without checking with your doctor first. Fluid restriction isn't appropriate for everyone, but for otherwise healthy adults, this simple timing shift is one of the most well-supported behavioral strategies in nocturia management. And it pairs naturally with the second habit, which is about something almost as important as when you stop drinking, which is how you distribute your drinking throughout the rest of the day. Here's a pattern I hear about constantly, and I suspect it might sound familiar. You wake up, you're not particularly thirsty. You have coffee, maybe skip breakfast, and drink relatively little before noon. By mid-afternoon, you realize you haven't had much water, so you start catching up. By evening, you've had a couple of glasses with dinner, maybe something warm before bed. And then, you wonder why you're up 3 times before morning. This pattern, light morning drinking, heavier evening drinking, is physiologically backwards when it comes to supporting your kidney's natural rhythm. And it's extremely common. Here's why it matters. Your kidneys process fluid most efficiently during the active upright hours of your day, roughly the morning through early afternoon. During this window, your body's hormonal environment, including aldosterone levels and renal blood flow, is optimized for handling volume. If you consume the majority of your daily fluid during these hours, your kidneys process it cleanly, your bladder fills and empties normally throughout the day, and by evening, there's relatively little left for your kidneys to deal with overnight. A clinical trial published in Neurourology and Urodynamics examined nocturia patients who were guided to consume a greater proportion of their daily fluid before the early afternoon, compared to a control group with no timing guidance. The intervention group showed a significantly greater reduction in nighttime voids after 8 weeks. While studies like this have limitations, including relatively short follow-up periods and the fact that people who join hydration trials often make other lifestyle changes simultaneously, the directional finding is consistent with what we understand about kidney physiology. A separate study from Japanese researchers examining men with nocturia found that front-loading hydration was associated with a meaningful reduction in nocturnal urine volume. Again, not a cure, not a universal guarantee, but a consistently supported direction. Here's something worth knowing for those of you who are a bit older. Thirst sensation becomes less reliable with age. This is a well-documented physiological change. Older adults are more likely to underdrink in the morning because they genuinely don't feel as thirsty, and then overcompensate later in the day when routine or habit prompts them to drink. This cycle is worth actively breaking. The practical approach is straightforward. Tomorrow morning, before coffee, before your phone, drink a full glass of water. Aim for another couple of glasses before noon. After lunch, taper gradually. By late afternoon, you're sipping, not gulping. By early evening, you're winding down. This isn't expensive, it doesn't require a prescription, and when you layer it on top of the evening cutoff we talked about, the combined effect on your kidney's overnight workload can be genuinely significant. Now, I want to share with you what I think is the most underappreciated concept in understanding nighttime urination for older adults. It's something that surprises a lot of people when they first hear it, and it has nothing directly to do with how much water you drink. For many adults, particularly those over 60, waking up to urinate at night isn't primarily a bladder problem at all. It's a fluid redistribution problem. Let me explain what I mean by that, because it's one of those concepts that makes a lot of things click into place once you understand it. Throughout the day, especially if you're eating a moderately high-sodium diet, which most people in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia are, fluid gradually accumulates in the soft tissues of your lower body, your legs, your ankles. You might notice mild puffiness by late afternoon, or you might not notice it at all if the accumulation is subtle. Now, during the day, gravity keeps that fluid in your legs. Your body is upright, and while your circulation is working, some fluid stays pooled in the peripheral tissues. The moment you lie down flat, the moment gravity is no longer pulling downward, that fluid begins redistributing. It moves upward, re-enters your bloodstream, reaches your kidneys, and gets filtered directly into your bladder. This is why many people feel completely fine going to bed and then find themselves urgently needing the bathroom within the first 60 to 90 minutes of falling asleep. It's not that their bladder suddenly filled on its own. It's that a wave of redistributed fluid arrived at the kidneys all at once. A notable study published in the Journal of Urology by researchers at Nagasaki University examined whether reducing daily salt intake would affect nighttime voiding frequency. Participants who reduced their salt intake from a relatively high level to a more moderate one, still above the recommended limit, notably, showed a meaningful reduction in nighttime bathroom trips on average. This wasn't a dramatic transformation for everyone, but the direction of the effect was clear and statistically meaningful. A follow-up study from the same group suggested that combining modest salt reduction with afternoon leg elevation, lying down with the legs raised before dinner, produced an even greater reduction in nocturnal urine volume. The proposed mechanism is that elevating the legs for 30 to 45 minutes while you're still awake and upright allows your circulation to return that pooled leg fluid back through your kidneys before bedtime, rather than having it arrive suddenly once you lie down at night. It's worth understanding why this becomes more relevant with age. As we get older, the venous walls in the legs become somewhat less elastic. Circulation becomes slightly less efficient at returning fluid from the periphery during daytime activity. And for those with any degree of cardiovascular aging, which is common and doesn't necessarily mean disease, this fluid pooling can be more pronounced. Research from Johns Hopkins and other institutions has documented that nocturnal polyuria, meaning excessive urine production at night specifically, is significantly more common in older adults with these kinds of physiological changes. Sodium intake matters here in a very direct way. The more sodium you consume, the more fluid your tissues tend to retain during the day, and the more fluid is available to redistribute when you lie down at night. Reducing sodium, even modestly, from what most Western adults eat down toward the recommended guideline of 2,300 milligrams per day, appears to reduce this overnight fluid redistribution meaningfully. If you can get closer to 1,500 milligrams, the evidence suggests the benefit may be greater, though that requires consistent dietary changes and is worth discussing with your doctor if you have blood pressure or kidney considerations. The hidden sodium sources are worth knowing about specifically. Bread and rolls are often the largest single source of sodium in many Western diets, simply because people eat so much of them. Canned soups, deli meats, cheese, restaurant meals, these are all major contributors that many people underestimate because the food doesn't taste particularly salty. Reading labels for a week or two is genuinely illuminating. Most people are surprised to discover how much sodium they're actually consuming compared to what they thought. And the leg elevation piece is simple enough that there's really no reason not to try it if you spend significant time sitting in the afternoon. A pillow or folded blanket under your calves for 30 to 40 minutes before dinner. That's it. Your circulatory system does the rest. Now let's bring all three of these together because they really do work as a system. On its own, an evening fluid cutoff reduces the volume arriving at your kidneys overnight. On its own, front-loading your hydration means your kidneys process most of your daily fluid during the hours they're best equipped to handle it. And on its own, reducing sodium and elevating your legs in the afternoon reduces the amount of fluid that's going to redistribute into your circulation when you lie down. When you layer all three together, you're addressing the problem from three different angles simultaneously. And the research, while not perfect, and while individual results vary, consistently suggests that combining behavioral interventions produces better outcomes than any single change alone. There are a few important things I want to say before we close. First, nocturia can sometimes be a sign of an underlying medical condition that genuinely needs evaluation. Diabetes, sleep apnea, heart failure, kidney disease, an enlarged prostate in men, pelvic floor dysfunction in women, all of these can cause or contribute to nighttime urination. If you're waking up frequently at night, and especially if this is a new development for you, please mention it to your doctor. These three habits are complementary to good medical care, not a replacement for it. Second, if you try these strategies consistently for 4 to 6 weeks and see no improvement, that's useful information. It suggests there may be something else going on that warrants a proper workup, and your doctor can help figure out what that is. Third, if you're on medications that require fluid with them, or if you have a condition requiring careful fluid balance, check with your healthcare provider before significantly changing how you time your fluid intake. That said, for many people with straightforward, lifestyle-related nocturia, and there are a lot of you, these three habits represent some of the best supported, most practical, lowest-risk strategies available. They cost nothing, they have no side effects when done sensibly, and the evidence behind them, while imperfect, is genuinely encouraging. So here's your practical action plan, putting it all together. Tonight, identify your bedtime and set a reminder for 2.5 hours before. That's your last meaningful drink of the day, and keep it small. No caffeine, no alcohol after that point. Tomorrow morning, start your day with a full glass of water before coffee or breakfast. Drink consistently through the morning and early afternoon. Taper off after lunch and shift to sipping in the late afternoon. This resets the distribution of your daily fluid intake. This week, spend a few days honestly tracking your sodium. Look at labels. You might be surprised. Aim to move toward 2,300 milligrams a day as a starting target. And if you sit for extended periods in the afternoon, watching television, reading, working, try elevating your legs for 30 to 45 minutes before dinner and see what happens over the following few weeks. Give this system 6 weeks of genuine consistency before drawing conclusions. Change takes time to show up in your sleep patterns. And keep in mind, if something feels off, if symptoms are changing, if you have any concerns about what's driving your nocturia, that's exactly what your doctor is there for. I hope this gave you a genuinely useful framework for understanding what's happening in your body at night and why these particular changes target the right mechanisms. If you found this helpful, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. I put a lot of care into making sure everything here is accurate, evidence-based, and actually practical, not just engaging sounding. If you want more content like this on sleep, urinary health, aging well, and everyday medical questions that don't always get clear answers, this is the place. I'm Dr. Alex Rowan. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.